Hello, I am the Programming Dunce, and this video is a continuation of the Intro to Rust series of videos. In the previous video, I did an introduction to variables and functions and how they work in Rust. Here, I plan to cover the if statement, loops, the match statement, and how enums work in Rust. The if statement allows your program to run in certain conditions, like if a variable is a certain value. So, in this example, we are detecting if a number is even by using the mod operator and comparing it to 0. If the number is even, then that number mod 2 will equal 0 and the code block will run. If you want code to run if the condition is false, then you would use the else keyword, and if you want to test another condition, you can use else if. In a series of else ifs, either one block will run or none of them will run. Even if multiple conditions are true, only the first condition that is true will run. If you want multiple blocks to run, remove the else words. If you are familiar with the C-based languages, notice how Rust doesn't require parentheses. This reinforces Rust's status as an expression-oriented language. Also, if you come from C and C++, there is an additional restriction. In C, C++, you could use a number or a pointer as a condition, and if that number is not 0, then the condition is true. In Rust, you can't do that. You would have to clarify that the number would equate to true if it doesn't equal 0. An additional Rust feature is the ability to embed an if statement in an assignment. This example came from the second edition of the Rust book online. The output will be true. Using this feature, to remain secure, Rust requires that each potential type this if statement offers be the same type. So this code will be an error. When an if condition is true, the code section will run once. However, Rust offers loops so that the block will run for as long as the condition is true. The loop keyword creates a block of code that either runs indefinitely or until a break statement is reached. While you can set a condition within the loop that determines if break is reached, a while loop has a condition built into it. You just need to specify the condition. Rust also provides the for loop, but this for loop is different from those found in earlier languages. While C++ and C for loops have an initialization statement, condition statement, and an update statement, those types of loops are not allowed in Rust. Instead, Rust for loops iterate through a collection, whether it is an array, a set of numbers, or an object with a collection trait. We'll cover traits in a later video. Before moving on to match statements, I wish to introduce enums in Rust. Those familiar with enums in C and C++ know that they are really just an integer with certain terms linked to a value, so you can assign an enum with the term rather than the value. In Rust, you can treat enums in a similar manner, but Rust enums can also contain data attached to a certain term. The best way I can describe this usage of the Rust enum is to briefly invoke C unions. In C and C++, unions can hold multiple values, but only one at a time. And unions don't have a marker that indicates which variable is active. Rust enums can either be a C enum or the union that does have a marker indicating the active variable. The way such an enum is structured is indicated in the diagram shown. According to old documentation of Rust, the enum has an unsigned character indicating the current enum value, and active variable as well as enough space to hold the largest variable specified. Granted, this applied to Rust 0 something, and we are currently on Rust 1.24.0, so I don't know to what degree this has changed. However, knowing this greatly helped me understand how enums work. And now we can discuss the match statement. If you have a background in C, C++, it's basically Rust's switch statement. A match statement can match a basic variable, like a number, or it can match an enum and operate in the appropriate variables. You can use an underline as the default case, the case that runs if none of the other cases are true. In our code example, we have an enum for a movie and a book. If the enum is a movie, then it holds a string for a title, string for production company, integers for runtime, year, and gross. As a book, the enum holds a string for title, author, and publisher. It also holds integers for a number of pages and publication year. I also declare a vector of our enum. I'll cover Rust vectors in a later video, though I'll leave a link in the description to my video on the C++ vector. I declare a series of my enum, some of them as books and some of them as movies. I then iterate through the vector using a for loop, and within the for loop, I match the current enum and point out its attributes based off of what type it is. And here is the program in action. Thank you for watching. In the next Rust video, I will introduce Rust's mechanism for arrays, strings, and structs.